Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of DilSe Stories. We have once again a very special guest, Dr. Ravi Godse. Welcome, sir.
Pleasure is all mine. Yeah.
All right. Would you mind introducing yourself to our audience, please?
Well, I mean, uh, I'm an internal medicine doctor. I grew up in suburb of Bombay. I like to say Bombay, but in case my wife watches the interview, she's very particular. Says, no, he's not from Bombay. He's a small suburb outside Bombay. So I grew up in Dombivli, and then I did my MBBS and MD from Bombay or Mumbai, as it is called. That's like I find it so fascinating. कि सिर्फ नाम बदला है, nothing, not much else has changed. But I feel very particular about that point, and I'll come to that later. So I did my MBBS MD there, and then I came to US, repeated my MD, and I'm in private practice since. I make movies, I travel, I make the video blogs on Twitter, Instagram, and it's so interesting that the people who know me during my COVID journey on Twitter and Instagram, they really know me well. So there's nothing left to be said. And the people who are getting to know me for the first time, they might be wondering, like, who the heck is this guy? So we'll see. Let's see how it unfolds.
Awesome. And I'm Dr. Parag Bharadwaj. So, the meeting of two doctors today. Uh, Tell us a little bit about, you mentioned people who've been following you, they know everything about you because you're like an open book. But how does one get to actually follow you? Is it on Twitter? Is it on Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, my Twitter handle is at Dr. Godse Ravi 1. And that's the same handle for Instagram. I started making these tweets and like videos on YouTube during COVID. And I think people liked it because they wanted somebody who was sensible and I hate to call myself smart, but it was a very rare combination at that time because I thought I'd made a 1 15-second video in which I said that the dumb people of the world went to God and said that you forgot to give us intelligence. That's very unfair. God said, you're right. Yeah, I didn't give you any intelligence. So I'll give you pandemic for 2 years. So in those 2 years, you get to rule over the world. So I was like I was telling people the common sense thing, nothing like outlandish, don't do this, don't do that. But I was also asking questions on behalf of people to the government, which like most governments of most of them were fairly stupid and the rest of them were stupider, if we can use that term. So I think people like that irreverent and questioning the authority in like some simple thing, because then once they said like there was a high level meeting and at the end of the meeting they said just use caution. ऐसे ये रामलाल और अहमद मियाँ की मीटिंग को हाई लेवल मीटिंग क्यों बोलते हैं ये लोग? मतलब थिंकिंग हाई लेवल की होनी चाहिए, खुद को हाई लेवल मीटिंग बोलते हैं. So I think people like that fact, and I started doing it, and then with the reactions, and then I would get a kick out of it. Like so in medical school we had a term called handle. So like the auto rickshaws in India have handle. So we used to call some people auto handle, that they don't need anybody else. So they are just so happy. They're so happy and content with themselves. Like Oscar Wilde was at a party and he was asked, did you enjoy yourself? And he said, yeah, I did, because there was nothing else to enjoy. So the people who are happy with themselves, life is so good, because I think you need to like yourself. So there was a very famous literature quote. A guy is sitting there and a girl walks in and starts talking to him. And he says to her, you are depriving me of solitude without affording me company. And I think that's like a very deep philosophical thing. So I think I'm not here to give any message or anything, but if anybody's looking for it, I would say like spend some time with yourself and have fun.
Awesome. Yeah. It's interesting because you are a physician as well, and you probably have very busy practice, right? And so, how do you find time uh, to get on social media? And we'll talk about your interest in making movies as well.
I mean, finding time is so unfair that we doctors always get asked these questions. means like the other people are just doing crazy things all over the world. And a doctor is doing something on the golf course. And some patient who has not even seen him is behind on the copay, asks him in a very injured tone that how do you find the time? Implying subtly that maybe this doctor is ignoring the patient work a little bit and focusing a little more on the habit. A busy man finds time. And the thing is, if that then actually having a short window of time is really good, because I think overthinking is bad. Not thinking is bad. Overthinking is worse. So at times, I have only 15 seconds to make a 15-second video. That's great because I'm not going to keep thinking and thinking I should have done this way, I should have done that way. Your first instinct that comes from the heart is always the best. So I said just lead with that. So I think your time, you can make time count, and then you start becoming very efficient in doing things. Like it's just like time expands to fit the work expands to fit the time allotted, as everybody knows. So if you have a limited time at hand, uh, like really manage it well. And I think I do have that particular talent of, and I also have the talent of volunteering others for the work that I should be supposed to be doing, especially at home or something like that. So,
Yeah, that requires a special kind of skill, especially at home.
right, yeah.
So, tell us about your interest in making movies. How did that come about? And tell us about some of your works.
Means I always was interested in telling funny stories and seeing it something that requires a little more thinking. Means, for example, like no joke is straight. You have required to, and that makes actually people, my friends, little anxious because they never know like what I am saying. So I was telling them about my trip to Nepal. I was talking to Nepali doctors. Like I had a big following in Nepal, Philippines, Bangladesh, Pakistani ICU Association was following me during COVID. So I have these pockets of worldwide contact. So I was talking to a Nepali group of doctors, and I said I went to Nepal as a kid, and I think a disastrous event happened. So I said my cousin got lost; he went missing. So I said, "Oh my God, that is such a disaster." I said, "No, no, that was not a disaster. We found him in a day. That was bad because he's still with us and he's so boring." So I wanted to do this like little different style of humor. So I was always into movie, like in storytelling, skits, dramas, and poetry, and all sorts of things, debates. And so in US, I went to actually film school for 2 years. It was like very funny because they gave me a C grade once. And I stormed into her room and threw the paper at her face like that Hindi movie. I said, I'm not a C grade student. I'm an A grade student all my life, right from kindergarten till now. She said, you haven't watched the movie that you reviewed. Like, so how am I supposed to give you an A grade? So I went to film school for 2 years, and then I got into movies, and I make movies really quickly. So I apply medicine, art of medicine to art of making movies. So think of everything, eventualities. And I had a very good crew. So I made 4 movies. First movie was on midlife crisis called Dr. Ravi and Mr. Hyde. It's a very deep kind. The movie opens with like camera on uh, on the bed. And I say, the movie starts on a cold night when I was sleeping in the arms of person I loved the most. So we see the girl who's playing my wife in the beginning, and then the camera dollies to me with my arms around myself, and that sets the tone about like, and the first joke in the movie, and that people, real people identify with it. So I get a call at 3 a.m. and the patient says he had chest pain. And I say, what's your insurance? So he said, oh my God, like you have your priorities right. I said, no, that will tell me which hospital to send you to. But so that was Dr. Ravi and Mr. Hyde. It was the movie about midlife crisis. And it was very well done. It was very well received actually. It was even reviewed by New York Times and it went worldwide on DVD. Second movie was called I Am a Schizophrenic and So Am I. The third movie was called Help Me Help You. It was original title was If It Ain't Broke, Break It. And the fourth movie was called Remember Amnesia. I didn't act in that movie. I should probably, but I didn't act in that movie. That movie was shot in India. It was a bigger budget movie. But
Did
if
you
you look
forget?
at the movie trailer, no, the if you look at the trailers, I mean, this will look like a big budget regular movie. Means my movie was edited by the editor of Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum and Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. Music was given by the background scorer of Three Idiots and Munna Bhai. I have some very well-known American actors, Broadway actors, very big cast, you know. And the story was really simple. A doctor loses his memory and forgets whether he has killed his wife. So it's like a sort of suspense twist, but like a lot of humor. So I sort of self-deprecating humor about part Indianness also comes into it. Like in my first movie, it didn't get a India distribution deal because they said like I offended India, which but when you're offending everybody, you know you're doing something right. So they in that movie somebody asked me, what did India do in Olympics? Was India in Olympics? And I get really mad and I say, what do you mean we were in Olympics? We paraded between Honduras and Indonesia, you know. And they said that was offensive because India doesn't win medals, but India doesn't, you know. So that's something to rectify and not get mad at other people. So yeah, I did. It was like very different kind of humor, and they did well, you know. The movies did well, and they were like there was some sense of reality amongst the humor too, you know, and that I think that sort of appealed to people a little more. So yeah, the same location where I'm sitting, I was shooting with an Irish cardiology friend of mine, and it was snowing in Pittsburgh then. It's going to be a white Christmas. What about black people? So that movie, we were making fun of people for this diversity and things of that. So I had some very strong opinions of that. Not always politically correct, but like I feel very strongly about it. And like my family says, that is good. Like what is on my mind because I say it right away. You know, right?
Got it. Yeah. So um, the common theme that I'm picking up is that you don't take things seriously. You speak your
And you
mind.
should, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. Because and the thing is, they say life is too short. It's incorrect. Life is too long. So don't get stuck doing things that you really don't like. You know, just follow your heart, do whatever it gives. Means what's the point, right? You're saying like, oh, I'll save this money and I'll invest it and I'll do this and that. And, it's like the people who are, uh, we never like live in the moment, they say. So we need to take, what's the point of it? We're not having fun now. So why invest in something that will make us have fun 2 years later? So where does this go? I think humor is a very important part of it. And I do that in medical practice too. And that really helps. You know, I think that is the best way of dealing with any situation. And even in difficult, like I had a patient who was going for surgery and we forgot to put them on the surgery list. So the patient was not eating for 2 days and he was really mad. He was throwing things and all that. I walked into his room and I said, I know you're mad and I want to tell me how hungry you are. But before that, let me tell you, I had such great breakfast this morning. I said fried potatoes, pancakes. It was wonderful. So he got so mad and then he started laughing. So it's like if you use the humor and if you know how to use it, like if you do it well, you know, then it's very worth it, and that makes life so much easier. They say endorphins, the stress is less, hemoglobin A1C goes down, you can lose some weight. So I think just having fun and using humor is very good.
Okay, so I didn't know about the impact of humor on like the hemoglobin A1C and all that
Means
stuff.
if you like, if you're feeling good
Yeah.
about it, stress means if somebody has cardiac related risk factor. So now, how we keep talking about non-modifiable risk factors like heredity. We are not like heroes of Manmohan Desai मूवी के माँ बाप बदल देंगे कि आप मेरे बाप नहीं हो मेरा बाप चोर था वो हम लोग तो नहीं कर सकते. So we cannot change the factor, we cannot change the age, we cannot change the sex, at least not us. uh, but we can change the stress. So diabetes and stress, if you compare it, stress is 4 times as important as diabetes. You make stress go away, it's like not having diabetes 4 times over. So that is the key to any kind of medical health, reducing the stress and finding the way in any kind of situation, like making lemonade out of lemon. If anything that goes wrong, and you can say, oh, at least, at least I got to enjoy that, or at least I got to. And there are some tricks to do that. Like people travel to India often, and they stress because of the flights, the time it takes. So I love reading Agatha Christie books. I just absolutely adore Agatha Christie. So my rule is I'm allowed to read Agatha Christie book only if I'm on a flight. So I'm looking forward to long flights. I love traveling Air India because when you miss connection, you get so many more hours to read Agatha Christie. So there are some simple things like that you could do. Okay?
Very nice. You know, yeah, you say some very profound things. Very, and I think the way you package it and you add humor to it is, I think, very unique. So, are we going to expect any more movies from you?
I have written a really big movie, means really big movie, but it is ready since 2012, but somehow we haven't made it yet because pandemic came in between. It is about India and Israel. And right now, after October 7th, it's a little tricky to make a funny movie about that. So we may have to wait a little bit. But the idea was really simple, that there's a girl in India who grows up disliking Gandhi. She thinks Mahatma Gandhi was too timid. He should have kicked the British out. And she falls in love with an Israeli guy who grows up not liking David Ben Gurion, Israel's first prime minister, thinking that he was too harsh and too warlike. So these kids meet, fall in love, get married in Philadelphia, and keep thinking what would have happened if the history was the other way around. So they meet God, and God turns Gandhi into Gurion and Gurion into Gandhi in 1942. And both the countries end in disaster. So that was the movie that I had written. It was a big movie. We had like a lot of support. And with my last name, Godse, that like we have couple $1 million worth of free publicity with Godse Gandhi angles, that. And we're also going to involve David Ben Gurion's family. And that movie also had like some very deep humor. Like the Jewish guys, like they like to save money, and Indian guys, girls are the way they are. So their interactions were just precious. So they buy the software from God to change history. And God says, why don't you buy the premier version of my software? So the Israeli guy asked, like, what is there in the premier version? God says it costs more. That's all right. He said, I'm not going to buy it. And the Indian girl said, like, I'm Indian. I'm not going to pay for the software. You make it, I use it. Where does money come into this? So it's like going this way and that. So it was like that movie. It was going to be a pretty big movie. We talked to Ben Kingsley. We had approached Vijay Mallya to play Gandhi before all that happened. It was like President Trump had read the script to play God in 2012, but we couldn't afford him because he could only shoot in Chicago. But his people were very nice to us, Right? So I think we had like this deep connection, and we were trying to make this movie. So I'm hoping to make that one day. And I have another script ready. It's extremely interesting script. It's about life after death, and it's called Thursday the 12th. So it deals with religions, not religions in the sense like three people of three different faiths keep thinking what happens to you after you die, and they going to their religious thing. So they really want to know. So they decide that one of them will commit suicide and let his friends know if there is life after death. So he kills himself, and turns out there is life after death. But he gets bored, so he comes back and kills his friends for him to accompany. So then he's ignoring them, so they go back and kill his wife. Then she kills. So it's like the afterworld is, and the movie ends with a dream. And the main characters say, "We don't know whether there is life after death, and if we knew, the religions won't exist. But there is life before death. So just enjoy it and don't get too caught up into anything." So I might make that movie too. It's going to be a horror spoof, and horror movies like people generally watch.
Amazing creativity. Uh, so, with your previous movies, where does one find them? Because you mentioned some of them were like you
Yeah, they were
distributed
like they're
DVDs,
on DVD, then
DVDs.
some Netflix, Amazon Prime. But I'm thinking about
Okay,
putting on my own YouTube channel. And
nice.
like these days it's difficult to get the movie on the platform unless you have sex and you have drugs in it. Means you are required to have it. And it's kind of crazy the way the movies are cast these days, and like what we are doing. So it is sort of hard to get, and it's not sour grapes. Like somebody was telling me your movies are like Van Gogh. Like nobody would understand them, but maybe 200 years later, people will be queuing up to buy the old DVD version. I said that really doesn't help me because we don't know whether there's life after death. Right?
Right.
But yeah, but
Awesome.
don't.
So, yeah, I think you've, through this conversation, captured your philosophy of life and how to live it. Any other parting message for our audience?
Well, means I always like to say for the doctors, मौसम गुल हो या पतझड़ हो बला से अपनी हम के शामिल है न खिलने में न मुरझाने में. So using some beautiful Urdu poetry, it means it just such uplifts you. It means that poetic expression, and if it is apt, and if you're able to do that. I was on a TV show for COVID. I'll give you one or two snippets, like how to, just at that time. And then I said, COVID is done by the time of Omicron. Just forget it. And they said, no, no, but the Indian experts are saying it is here to stay for a long time. So I suddenly said, उफ तबस्सुम हल्का हल्का हाय वो भीगी भीगी पलके वक्ते रुखसत उन पे गरा था लम्हाए रुखसत हमसे ज्यादा. अगर ये लोगों को छोड़ना ही नहीं है, they want it more. So if something that comes to your mind, and it comes like, and you use like common examples of like the movies or popular literature or something like that, and then that becomes like very very apt. Right? So it was I was on one last thing. I was on a show, and I was fifth. So the panel of doctors, first four doctors were just saying something totally outright. So by the time they came to me and they said, "What do you think?" I said, "I'll just tell you one thing, that when you put it on YouTube, you start your interview here with my first sentence. क्योंकि हम जहाँ खड़े होते हैं line वहीं पे चालू होती है." So something like that. So people enjoy that. So yeah, don't take things too seriously. Life is too long. So just don't get caught up into things that you're not uh, uh, interested in. And humor, poetry, enjoyment. And I had made a video. I love traveling. So I was recently in New Zealand, and I made a video in English at Milford Sound. that every day find 20 minutes to find a new neighborhood in your area without maps and just walk. You'll get good exercise, time to reflect, and you might find new things that you never knew existed in your neighborhood. है यूं ही भटकते रहने का मजा ही कुछ और, ऐसा लुत्फ न पहुंचने में न कहीं रह जाने में.
Very nice. So would you mind, some of our audience might not know Urdu. Could you sort of
Yeah.
share the
So
gist of the previous two couplets as well?
yeah, it's so much fun to just wander. That fun cannot be captured by reaching or starting. Right. So you should just wander less. Yeah, just keep wandering around. Right.
And then the first one that you had mentioned.
Oh, of tabassum halka
Yeah.
halka. They said he's parting from his girlfriend has ditched him, and she's crying a little bit, and she's smiling. She said like he thinks she ditched me, but on her face it looks like it is affecting her more than it should be affecting me. So,
I think that was the second one. The first one was a different one that you had started off with.
हाँ हम के
Yeah.
शामिल है न खिलने
Ji,
में.
right.
So मौसम गुल, that means the spring and summer. Pajjad means the winter. So it could be summer, it could be winter. If you're not involved in either blossoming or wilting, then what's the point? It could be part of the nature. Like enjoy every phase of the nature. Otherwise, what's the
Right. So you have to immerse yourself to get the experience.
yeah, and the thing is, like to do some philosophical, like like this advice and that advice. I mean, who the best person apart from your parent, who really has the best intention of your heart? If you shave, you meet them in the mirror every day. If you are a woman, you meet them while you're brushing your teeth in the mirror. That person like has your well-being at the core of their heart. So listen to yourself. Then just be with yourself. There is so much, like Bertrand Russell used to say, that the time that you waste doing nothing is not wasted. So occasionally it's okay to chill, and
Right.
just let go. Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful advice from a wonderful doctor on how to live life. So I look forward to having you again to
Yes,
share some
it
of
will be my
your
pleasure. Right. Yeah.
added wisdom. And good luck. I hope to see your movie on silver screen soon.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Thanks for coming. Namaskar.
Bye.